March 6th. Trips and Traps, Andy Serling, joined by Eric Donovan.
5 races to bring you on this week's episode. We'll start off with the 6th race from February 28th, the maiden special weight for 3-year-olds and up, going a mile. There's a horse that loses its rider in the early stages of the race here, but that rider, Odahir Mayato, is okay. But we're focusing in on the number 5 horse here, Spartiatus, who's going to get a wide trip around the first turn.
I think John Travolta could have used some lessons from you in the way you pronounce that name. I'm extraordinarily impressed. We're going to look at a horse who's a very easy horse to seize in those light blue silks for his trainer, Leon Blushewitz, and that's Spartiatus. Spartiatus actually ran very well in this race, and not just because he was wide, but also because he attacked a pace, and you're going to see how contentious this pace was. And in reality, the horses that end up running 1-2 are back here and here, so that's how strong the pace was. It was really a classic meltdown in here, and Spartiatus not only was widest of all attacking the pace, he ran the best of any of the speeds, really.
Yeah, he's the surviving member of the pace battle here. You see 4 of them lined up across the track now, and right to the inside is the number 2 horse. Actually, 2 past the inside is the number 2 horse, Killer Crossover, who was a slight 3-1 favorite in this race, and Spartiatus defeats Killer Crossover by 6 lengths.
Yeah, it wasn't even close, and he's, of course, once again on the outside. He's an easy horse to see in those light blue silks. And actually, this horse, Long River, is that Long? Not Long River, Long Water. He's a half to Long River. Actually, he looked like a winner, but he even moved too soon in making the lead around the top of the stretch, and it's not, I don't blame the rider, really. I think the rider was doing the right thing. That's Manny Escobar. It's just, this pace was very, very contentious. And this was Spartiatus' first race, actually, since the end of November. So he hadn't run in, almost over 3 months. This was a very good effort, Eric.
It was indeed. And, really not a dirt horse to say to this point, because might be now. But, 3 races to begin his career on the turf. The 4th race was rained off the turf. Didn't run too badly in that race, finishing second by a secret bid. But, I got to think in finishing 5th here, this is probably the best effort he's run on any surface.
I think it is. And I'm beginning to wonder with that second place finish off the turf and this performance, if in fact he really is a dirt horse, that maybe Blue was putting him on the wrong surface before. And of course, like all of Blue's horses, he was touting this horse quite heavily, but he might be right. I think Spartiatus can run a little bit. He just needed the right surface, and this will serve as a terrific prep for him going forward, and we'll see where he is next time. And this is a race where I think, just in general, looking at it, you want to upgrade anybody that was near the pace and downgrade anyone that was closing from well behind. I think Long Water was somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, winter games and away games certainly got the best setup there.
Yeah, I think away game is one you want to play against going forward.
All right, we'll take a look at the 5th race now from March 1st, a maiden special weight for New York bred 3-year-olds going 6 furlongs here. It was a big field, but we didn't really find all that much aside from the 2 horse here, Mighty Zealous, who lunges a little bit at the start but gets off a little bit behind the field.
Yeah, I think that in retrospect, Mighty Zealous was a horse, and we saw this with Linda. Linda had a maiden that broke its maiden on Monday. They just sometimes need their first races, and this horse, I thought Mighty Zealous encountered some sort of a little bit of hidden trouble we'll talk about in the stretch, and when he got himself clear in the late stages, he was really running, and this was a race that was wired on the front end, but I think that Saturday's track, of course, Gotham Day, was a very fair track.
Yeah, I thought so too. Later in the week, on Sunday and Monday, there's some debate about whether the inside became strong or not, but right here, the 2, Mighty Zealous, getting in a decent enough position considering the break in here, and Taylor Rice trying to motivate him a little bit here to keep him to that close pack up front there. He's about 4 or 5 lengths back off the lead now, but in a good spot. But you got to consider yourself. You're down inside. You're going to need to find a way to get through without encountering trouble, and that's exactly what's going to happen here to Mighty Zealous.
Yeah, I mean, I think that these horses kind of want to be free and clear. When you see the way he ran at the end, you can see he wanted to be free and clear. Now Taylor's trying to find a seam here. The 3 horses coming over on her, the 7 horse outside will actually run second, is keeping her in. And it's interesting the 7 ran second, so I'm not sure had Mighty Zealous been able to get out that actually he might not have finished second. And right here, he's been able now to extract himself, and in my opinion, he came up with a fairly strong run late in the race. Indicated to me if he had been clearer and gotten his momentum earlier, it might have even been much closer.
Yeah, it looked like he made up a few lengths in the final stages, more than a few lengths maybe even. Running his best down toward the end of the race there. So a horse that definitely you can chalk it up to a learning experience. I think a little bit of a trouble at the start, and then some traffic coming off the turn.
I think we've seen that with a number of Linda horses. La Verdad was a horse didn't run well first time out, and obviously strung together I think 5 straight wins before finishing second. In the Barbara Frickshee with that horse we mentioned for Monday that ran so impressively. It seems like Linda's horses sometimes the education first time really helps them out. And Mighty Zealous indicated in here that he's a horse that may improve second time out.
All right, we'll head on to Sunday now. Take a look at the 8th race there. It says state bred non-winners of 1 allowance for 3-year-old fillies going 5.5 furlongs. Henry's Gal, a lot of trouble at the start here.
Yeah, and at first I thought it might have been the Gap, and we're circling them both because it's a double whammy for Henry's Gal, in that jumps up at the start, almost one of those infamous lunges, and then the 6 comes over and completely fouls him and takes him out out of the race, and Taylor did a very good job after this because this is a speed horse. And keep in mind, the rail probably got very good on Sunday and Monday. Not one of our super strong rails, but a good rail. Already finds herself, I should say, a couple lengths behind, but boy, she does the right thing. She gets her to settle, and then she lets her roll. You can't hold this horse back. That would have just eliminated any chance she had.
Oh yeah, she had no choice but to do what she did here, and Henry's Gal moving up aggressively, down the backstretch here. But this is a horse that's all speed. She hadn't been headed in either of her 2 prior starts, so to come from off the pace and have that trouble at the start, she's up against a little bit here, including running against a horse that I think was the actual favorite in the race, and that's the 8, My Girl Madison, who come off a big win first time out.
Yeah, this was an exceptionally good effort, and I was very lucky because I left her out of the pick 4, and she finished 3rd, but she absolutely should have won this race. The 1 Irish Sweepstakes, who I like, got extremely lucky to win the race. She was 3rd best in this race. The 8 was forced along My Girl Madison, but boy, Henry's Gal, I mean, it's tough to run as well as she did and not win.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like here she's, Taylor Rice is riding pretty confidently, looking like she's going to put away the 8-horse My Girl Madison there. But Henry's Gal going to get a little bit tired in the final stages here after having to rush up in the early part of the race after that poor break. And you'll see the 1-horse Irish Sweepstakes pick them both up here.
Well, listen, Taylor Rice is a rider, and I'm not sure why we're stopping it, but that is the 5, in case you forgot who it is. Taylor Rice is a rider whose horse stopped abruptly there, who has had a lot of success, and she's a very smart rider. She gets her horse in good position. She's going to get in trouble sometimes, but, she does a good job of extracting them, and she shows the tools to be a promising rider. She's a weak finisher. That's her Achilles heel right now. And I think as time, perhaps she gets stronger, then she can add that to her game, and she's going to have a very successful career. But right now, that's her Achilles heel as a rider. She couldn't have won on Henry's Gal. No one was going to win on Henry's Gal. And I think she did a lot of things right, considering all the things that were thrown to her. And these are the kind of rides that they're good for young riders because she learns from them. And one thing, she doesn't panic, and I think that's a very good sign a rider. She did not panic with this horse at all.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of her race placement on her horses, it seems like she's really polished way more than a 5-pound apprentice. And the strength stuff, I mean, that's stuff that I think will, naturally she'll improve upon as she gets more and more experience.
Hopefully she will, because she is a promising rider. She's gotten very good mounts, but if you look at her, she's got a ton of wins and not that many seconds and thirds, and that's the sign of a rider who is winning on the horses they're supposed to win on.
All right, we'll take a look at Monday's card now, and we'll fast forward here to the 5th race. This is a state bred 1 other than for 3-year-old fillies going 1 mile and 70 yards. Saturday Bliss coming off a big speed-aided or bias-aided win last time out, catches the same kind of track again.
Yeah, Saturday Bliss is a horse that is incredibly dressed up. Now, she may be talented. We just don't really know because she's gotten 2 perfect trips on strong insides. The other one was more strong than this one. I thought that Sarah Shoes, who finished 2nd here, she showed me much more because she had won her debut, but not a particularly fast race, and she's hung up 3 wide fights the whole way. I think a lot of horses, Under the Moonlight, who's the 8-horse, has a wide trip in here. Even the 6th, I think the 6-horse who finished last, Jen's Miracle. Under the Moonlight's one I'd really like to see turning back in distance because she didn't run that badly for a while in here. But I think that it's this horse, Saratoga Shoes, that you might want to focus on going forward because this was a nice effort.
It was a nice effort. I didn't really think she had much of a chance. The way that the race set up in here, both these horses, Saturday Bliss and Saratoga Shoes, trained by George Weaver. And, maybe you get Saratoga Shoes against Saturday Bliss at a rematch somewhere down the road and get a much better price on Saratoga Shoes.
Yeah, I like this effort here. Now, she showed that she didn't really have a big problem going long. And I think essentially when showing this race and talking about Sunday's card as well as Monday's card where the rail was the place to be, just keep in mind, look for horses that had wide trips and you want them. I think Under the Moonlight, who, is in those purple and blue silks on the outside, that's a horse I wouldn't mind cutting back. She just fell apart because she didn't want to go long and she was wide chasing the whole way. Story late, Sarah Shoes gets a lot of credit though for hanging in pretty gamely.
Yeah, I mean the 3rd place finisher rather was Storied Lady, who saved a good bit of ground, was only 2 passes off the rail, right up there with Saturday Bliss right now, and plugging away 3 wide is Saratoga Shoes, who just does not save an inch of ground at any point in the race.
Yeah, I also thought Mademoiselle Minuit got kind of a ridiculous ride in here. I'm not really sure what the hurry was for a horse that was a dead closer in a race that had some speed, why you would have taken that horse back and go to the rail and try to get lucky and be 2nd here. Instead, that horse was in a full-out drive for about a mile of the 1 mile and 70 yards here. But I like the tenacity from Saratoga Shoes and chasing wide. I think she ran okay.
And another draw-off win here by Saturday Bliss. This margin was 6 1/4. The debut win was 11 3/4. That said, next time out in a state bred 2 other than or whatever stake she runs it next, she's going to be a super short price on some gaudy-looking PPs that may not be as good as they seem on paper.
Yeah, she's going to cost people money that aren't paying attention. I think the best thing she's going for is every Wise Guy Trip handicapper is drooling at the idea of betting against her, so she'll get the money. But it'll be interesting to see what she can do. You don't want to fault a horse that's 1 or 2 2 races. She's done what she had to do, but she has not run as well as she appears on paper. How good she is going forward, we'll find out. All
right, we'll take a look at the 8th race now from Monday State Bred 2, other than for fillies and mares going 6 furlongs.
Yeah, this was an interesting race, and we had that good rail, and we had some very aggressive riding here. I like the rider, the 2, who ends up running second to last. The speeds end up running last and second to last. Horses we're going to look at, the eventual winner, who sits a pretty good trip but is off the rail. I like the performance of Pegasus Diamond, who hung in very, very well despite attacking the fast pace much more than the winner 3 wide. And Run-a-Dub-Dub, whose rider, Cornelia Velasquez, gave an exceptional ride, saves ground, angles out as late as possible, had no excuse not to win this race. Frankly, Run-a-Dub-Dub ran the best race of the horse that ran 1-2. Pegasus Diamond, though, is the one I kind of want going forward.
I agree with you, and I think a lot depends, on Pegasus Diamond, what kind of spot she ends up in next. Obviously, if she's in a spot where she looks like she can control it, be one of the main speeds, you move her up a little bit. But, I even thought her last effort on February 8th wasn't all that bad because she was taken out of her game, had to make a middle move there, and then she ends up, on a 3-wide chase. And here, on a day where you wanted to be inside in a race where the race kind of collapsed and fell apart where you wanted to be from off the pace.
Yeah, and here she is making that first attacking move. And keep in mind, the horses that she attacked finished 6 3/4 and 7 1/4 behind her. There's the eventual winner, and of course, Down Hunt Hottie's not in the picture. Pegasus Diamond 2 races ago, before this, galloped on a gold rail. The time before that was involved in an extraordinarily fast pace that collapsed, a complete and total meltdown, and attacked that pace and attacked it wide and attacked it early. And so I agree, ran much better than it potentially looks. You see Downtown Hottie just coming off the rail. You see Run-a-Dub-Dub angling out outside of a horse, though, in Pegasus Diamond, who's been chasing and attacking 3 wide. An interesting race and really a meltdown here.
Yeah, really a meltdown. And of course, Run-a-Dub-Dub sat a pretty good trip there in behind the lead and about the 2 path. And then Downtown Hottie comes from off the rail and from last, just to illustrate the meltdown to you. Downtown Hottie, a horse that you probably associate more with going longer, even on the turf, but it's all closers toward the end of this race.
Yeah, it also was a turnback, and it shows how powerful these turnbacks can be. I had bet the horse on the rail, Penny Mine. Some people thought it was in too tight. I think that Manny Franco did the right thing. The rail had been good. He stayed in the rail. He got through in there. He had plenty of time to get through. The other horses just ran better races than she did there. I think it was an interesting array of races, and we'll be heading towards the main track at least in probably a few weeks. Turf racing, believe it or not, a month away, but we still need your help, and it's trips and traps at NYRAinc.com.
Thanks for watching.